So once in a while a game comes out that is genre defining and stands tall above the rest. The closest thing I can think of is Dark Souls, even though these games have nothing in common whatsoever, and it's not really a difficult game at all. My friends, Persona 5 has become one of the greatest games that I have ever played. Now, of course, this is the first Persona game I have ever played, so maybe I'm just a little bit biased, but honestly, what they're doing over there at Atlus is incredible with Persona. Now, first off, before we get any further in this video, there will not be any spoilers, so don't worry about that. This video here is mainly tips and tricks and a review as well. And when I mean genre defying, I am not joking. From the moment the game starts up, Persona 5 has one of the most epic intros that I have ever seen, and it really reminds you of a old school game like the games of yesteryear. You're like, that's the way games used to be, and that's what I've been yearning for. And even though you forgot that you were yearning for those types of games, similar to whenever you first played Dark Souls or Metal Gear Solid 3, a genre defying game. Something new and innovative that hasn't really been done before. Even though Persona games have been out for a while, honestly, the gameplay, the combat, and the confidant system of Persona 5 is one of the best that I've ever played ever, and I'm not joking, especially for JRPGs. So you've been thinking about getting into Persona 5, you've been hearing your friends talking about it left and right, even though the game's been out for 2 to 3 years now. Royal and Scramble around the corner, you've seen them in Smash Bros, Joker, so it's been piquing your interest and you're ready to get right on into Persona 5. You even see a nice deep sale of the game for $10 on PSN and you're like, yep, I need to dive into this right now. Or maybe you got it for $15 a while back. Or maybe you're playing it on PlayStation now, or maybe you just decided to go all out and spend the $20 and get the game at full price. Well, whatever the reason is, you decided to jump into Persona 5. Now, why the heck do they call Persona 5 Persona? So a persona essentially is a personality that you can summon to fight other personas or monsters. Then the characters put on a mask, which is the persona's personality. And each persona has different strengths and weaknesses, and also different magic spells to destroy the other personas that you're fighting. Here's a pretty spoiler-free gist of the game, and we're not going to get very far into it because throughout the entire game, this is pretty much going to be the whole game without specific events or characters. So what happens is you initially start off in the future as Joker, the protagonist in the casino, and you're trying to complete a heist, and boom bada bang, you jump through the window, you're looking cool as hell, you're cocky as hell, and you're trying to climb up this ladder, and boom, you get busted by the cops. And of course, Joker gets arrested and they start interrogating you. And the first thing they want to know is the name of you, the protagonist. They don't call you the protagonist, but they forcibly hand you a piece of paper after knocking you to the ground and make you sign pretty much your confession. And from that point forward, a detective essentially gets you into the interrogation room. Well, really, what you're doing is telling her the events of the past, and this is going to happen throughout a lot of the game. You're going to keep seeing this over and over again, the Joker silhouette with the revolving picture over and over again, and you're just telling her about your past, the past events that led up to that moment. Then what happens to that? It's the start of the past. Essentially, the reason that Joker is in his situation is he decided to defend this woman from a wealthy man out in the rain. And this man's like, I'm gonna sue, alright? You get shipped off to live with Surgeon, which is the owner of the LeBlanc Calf and Curry. And he pretty much tells him, you need to be a good boy and don't break your probation. Go to school and live a normal life. And I'll take care of you. You just go live up in the attic, okay? There's no door, nothing like that, just stairs, alright? And you think that from this point on, it's just going to be a high school simulator, and from the intro alone, you should obviously know it's not going to be a high school simulator. And of course, from there, you meet your first teammate, Ryuji. And then also, you see another one of your teammates, An, talking to the high school volleyball coach, Kamoshida, hitting it up with An, your teammate. And you're like, what the fuck? What is going on? This high schooler and like this teacher dude? An's friend, Shiho, pretty much getting sexually harassed by Kamoshida, which really, in the end, gets you guys all together with another character named Morgana. And believe me, this is all in the first palace, so we're really not going that far into the game per se. And essentially the way they get to the metaverse is through an app on their phones. And Joker and Ryuji don't even know what the heck even happened to begin with to get them there. And of course, Ryuji, An, and Morgana, they all get personas and they all become complete and utter badasses. And I mean, every single time a teammate gets a persona in this game, it's a big deal. And it's always such a badass cutscene, such an awesome moment. And then you just feel like a total badass and you're just shooting magic at your opponent, getting their weaknesses and going out for all out attacks. Now, of course, when you beat the palaces, understand this. You will not be able to go back to the palace. So if there's any treasure chest whatsoever in that palace, you better make sure like hell you're gonna make lockpicks inside your room before you go in that deal. And make sure those treasure chests are open up so you get some good items, or else you're gonna miss out on those items and you're gonna be screwed. And what happens is Joker is being threatened by these enemies from Kamoshida in the metaverse, in the palace, and he transforms. His persona, Arsene, essentially comes out. It's like, hey, here I am. You ready to be a badass? Ready to sign that vow with me? And boom. He's a trickster, which that's what they call Joker, the trickster that has the wild card. Now, the wild card essentially gives Joker the ability to summon personas, but also to obtain other personas. See, most characters in this game only have one persona. Joker can have as many personas as he wants, as in the amount of personas that they allow you within a given time. So you're going to have to trade them off or get rid of them to have more. But still, he's the wild card. And the crazy thing about it is in this game, they have what's called palaces. Essentially, you go in after a bad guy and you go all the way up to the top, find the treasure. Once you find the treasure, you send out the calling card. Once you send out the calling card, you beat up the guy. And since you send out the calling card, the treasure materializes. It comes into the metaverse, into the palace. You beat up the guy, take the treasure, run out of the places. It's crumbling to pieces. And after that, the ruler of that palace will confess their sins. And once you defeat Kamoshida's palace, you and your friends go out and get something to eat and form the Phantom Thieves. The Phantom Thieves' objective is to stop rotten adults and bad criminals who have committed sins who have not confessed or atoned for them. That is what the Phantom Thieves do. And you're going to be doing this throughout the entire game with several palaces. That's as far as I'm going to get with the story so far, because that's pretty much the whole game. Now, Persona 5 has combat. Now, you've played a JRPG before. You've played those turn-based games before, like Final Fantasy X. Or maybe Shadow Hearts Covenant if you played another Atlas game. And you're like, okay, I know about turn-based combat. Well, usually in those games, a lot of your abilities really don't matter. You're just trying to throw the most powerful ability at the enemy and hoping that it will hurt them quicker or hurt them harder. Well, in this game, it honest to God matters. When you're fighting in Persona 5, you use what's called personas. And each persona has different magic abilities. And they have strengths and weaknesses. Now, if your persona is weak to a certain skill, such as fire, and the other persona shoots fire at you, it's gonna stun your ass. And when it stuns your ass, the enemy gets an extra turn to whoop your ass. So don't allow them to do that, especially if you know they're going to shoot fire at you, alright? And at that situation, you're going to want to have ice. Or you're just going to need to figure out what the heck is their weakness to a trial and error method. You're going to shoot everything at your enemy until you get that weakness. Now, some enemies do not have a weakness, and at that point, you're just going to have to whoop their ass and hope for a critical and then go out for the all-out attack. Now, say for instance, you stun all the enemies with their weakness or get a really badass critical and just critical the shit out of them, and they're all stunned. You can do what's called a all-out attack where you and all your teammates just whoop the shit out of the enemy and instantly and utterly destroy them. Which that's what you're aiming for in every single fight, no matter what, is to get that all-out attack. But of course, keep this in mind, you're going to need to do some SP management. So say for instance the enemy's only 2 hits away and you stun them, and there's another enemy that's not stunned. You might want to just attack them instead and preserve that SP. And later in the game, you can get an item called an SP adhesive, and it essentially recovers your SP, and it's pretty much the only accessory that you're going to need in the game once you get to that point. And with that particular confidant, which I'm not going to name, you want to get really far in the confidant so you can get the discount to buy the SP adhesive cheap. Get it cheap, trust me, you're going to need it. Also, do not let the main character, Joker, die. Because just like previous Persona games, if Joker dies, the main protagonist, game over. And unlike Persona 4 Golden, where you respawn on the same floor where you died, well, this game, you respawn back on the save point. Which brings me to my next point. Do not save spawn whatsoever. Because just like Dark Souls, if you keep saving over and over going up to the bonfire, the enemies will respawn. So unfortunately, you're going to be wasting even more SP and more HP dealing with them. So your best bet is to save the game, move forward till you get to the next save point, then save the game in the next save room. And if you have to go back to the entrance, press R1 and pull up all the fast travel locations and go back to the entrance and make more personas. That's exactly what you should do. Also, once you stun all the enemies, instead of doing all-out attacks, you can ask for money from the enemies, you can ask for items from the enemies, or most importantly, most likely what you're going to do, you're going to try to do negotiations with the enemies so they become your persona. In that situation, before you even negotiate, look right up top. What kind of persona are they? Are they timid? Are they high energy, upbeat? And decide what kind of responses you're going to say based on that. Of course, it's a multiple choice situation, but the response that correlates with their typing is important in order to get them to say, I am thou, thou art I, thou has become a whatever. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You will hear it 1,000 times in the game, just like you will hear persona 1,000 times in the game. So you most definitely are going to want to get these guys on your team so you can do persona fusions in the Velvet Room and get more powerful personas. And also, you can take old abilities from personas and inherit it on the open slots on the new personas as their new abilities. Plus them leveling up, of course, with confidence. See, you need to be increasing your confidence because the higher your confidence are in Persona 5, the more the persona will level up. And each persona has a different typing. It's all based on confidence. Personas could be strength confidants, they could be tower confidants, but the higher you are in the real world with like a strength or a tower confidant, which will allow you to level them up even more and faster, which is extremely important in Persona 5. Whenever you're leveling up your confidants, you're going to want personas that match your confidants. So you might be going to the condominium a lot in the Velvet Room to get the certain arcane of persona that matches your confidants, because with the particular personas you can level up confidants way quicker and way faster because it matches their arcane compared to other personas. So you need to do that. You need to keep in mind of that. Even if you're only spending a couple $100 on a persona, you need to have them. So before you even mix and match personas and fusions, maybe keep them all in your inventory for a little bit. And then but whenever you go into the palace, then start fusing them left and right. That's what you should do. And of course, in this game, SP management, that's your magic points, is extremely important. Do not run out of SP. You better buy items. You better stock up on stuff before you go into a palace. But, you know, obviously you need to manage your money too. This is a management game. This is a day and evening simulator game as well. As in, during the days, when the day starts, you get 2 time slots. You get day, which you can go talk to a confidant or eat food or whatever, and then you get night. You can do the same thing. You better take full advantage of those time slots and do not waste those time slots whatsoever. You will be so screwed in the game if you just keep wasting and wasting and wasting those time slots. When you go into a palace, you need to complete the palace on the first day or as soon as possible. I am being dead serious. Like, get that motherfucker done. And if you want to create new personas, go to the save rooms, because that's the only way you're going to be able to save the game. Press R1 and travel back down to the entrance and go into the Velvet Room and create new personas if you need new personas. Make sure Joker has like all the magic abilities between all his personas like stretched out, especially as you get later into the game. Now see, the first couple palaces, it probably doesn't matter as much, especially the first 2, but you need to have all the abilities for Joker, and I am not joking, especially in the end game. And I'm not going to spoil that for you. Just have them ready, okay? It's extremely important. And also your party, have a nice party. The best part about Persona 5's parties is that even if you're not using the party members, they level up. And so do the personas as well. All the personas level up too. But I would be swapping out them personas left and right like nobody's business, because you do not need to stick to a persona the entire game, because you can level up way faster by going into the Velvet Room and combining personas than just keep grinding with a persona. It will take you fucking forever. So do not grind with a persona. See, this game is a big game and it has a whole lot of details, but then once you learn the game, like when you learn Dark Souls and stuff like that, it's really not that bad. And I would highly suggest a guide for the day-to-day activities that you do in Persona 5, especially the activities when it deals with the real world, your high school life. Because if you don't have a guide and you don't have a general understanding of the Persona game, oh man, you're so screwed. See, confidants are essentially people that you can build relationships with in the real world, whether they're your teammates, whether they're your other people that you have met, or other people you are about to acquire about that are confidants. And it's important, it is so fucking important to rank up these people, because they give you special abilities in combat. Like, say for instance, switching out your teammates, allowing you whenever you leave the palace or mementos, which mementos essentially is the palace of all the people, of the cognation of all the people in the world in Persona. It's really essentially a randomized dungeon with random enemies, and as you go throughout the game, you will unlock more and more portions of mementos. And with mementos, you're going to want to go through all of it eventually. You're going to want to eventually get through all of it. And here's what happens with mementos. You get what's called request. And once you build up so many requests, then go into mementos once you have 3 or 4 or 5 requests, because you do not want to go into mementos before you get the ability to make it where it only takes up 1 time slot during your day. Because one of the confidants gives you the ability to take up only 1 time slot during the day instead of the whole day for mementos or palaces. So yes, exploring mementos is extremely important, and it also gives you quick travel points that you can go to different rest areas within mementos in the end areas, which you need to do. That way, whenever targets come up, you're not exploring for hours on end trying to get to the fucking target. Fast traveling in Persona 5 is extremely important. Whenever you're not fighting in a palace, you need to focus on confidants. Like I said, they give you special abilities that make you and your team total badasses and help out with the game tremendously. I am not joking. And if you get a good guide, make sure the guide tells you the correct answers to say to the confidants. Because when you provide the correct answers to confidants, you get little points. And the more points you get, the faster you can rank up the confidants. So you're gonna want to do that. Also, what's extremely important in the game is social stats. It's extremely important because without proper social stats, you cannot hang out with certain confidants at certain ranks. See, confidants are ranked from rank 1 to 10. And once you get to 10, you maxed them out, okay? There is literally no point for you to hang out. And if you decide to romance a confidant, only romance one confidant in the game. If you romanticize all the female confidants in the game, well, my friends, at some point in the game, they're all going to come together and beat your ass up. That's just how it is. And you're going to look like a total ass to these people. So don't do it. And of course, the game will tell you if you're going to get to that moment to choose your words wisely. And you better choose them wisely. Are you wanting the relationship, the bang bang? Or are you wanting the platonic friendship? Gotta choose those words wisely now. Now, like I said, social stats are extremely important. Now, some confidants, if you hang out with them, look at your guide, will also increase social stats as you hang out with them, which is a win-win. You want to do that. I'm telling you, you want to do that. It's a big deal. Alright? So the main areas that you can do in your normal life outside the palaces, your life as a high schooler joker, is essentially you can hang out with confidants. You can improve your social stats. So how do we do all this? Now your social stats can be improved from going to a movie theater, watching a movie at your house, playing video games, doing jobs, going to restaurants, and of course hanging out with confidants, which increases some of your social stats as well. Not all confidants do that, so look at a guide to figure out which ones do it. Also, get a guide to figure out what the best confidants in the game are. The confidants that give you the best abilities possible, period. And also, when you're in class, hit the touchpad to figure out what the correct answer is on the question. And before you come to school, have books ready. So you can read on the subway, you can read in class if you get the ability to skip class. Also, get fertilizer for your plant in your room and clean your room ASAP. Because your room allows you to create lockpicks, which unlock treasure chests. Play video games. Watch the TV. Watch movies, do a whole hell of a lot of things. Also, Sundays are extremely important. You need to go to the mall and buy a smoothie for one of your social stats. It happens every single Sunday and it costs $5,000, which sounds like a whole lot of money. It's not. Trust me, it's barely anything. And money management is key. And also check out the TV, because a lot of times the TV has questions that you can answer to increase social stats and stuff that you can buy, and I believe it's on Sundays from the shopping network that will be delivered to your house. So all this is extremely important, and the plant stuff does not even take up any of your day at all. So you need to do it and increase your kindness stat. Now the social stats in the games are as follows: guts, knowledge, kindness, charm, and proficiency. And trust me, if you want to max out all confidants in the game, which is possible in a playthrough, you need to max out all those social stats or you're not even going to be able to do it. Trust me, they're not going to let you do it. Now let's get into the combat. Now I was talking about this way earlier in the video, but we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the combat in the game, which is also going to be the main component outside of confidants. So Persona 5 is a turn-based RPG. Alright, you've played turn-based RPGs before. You've played Final Fantasy X. You've played maybe Shadow Hearts Covenant, which is kind of an awesome game with a cool clock turn-based system. But this game is a little bit different than all those games. And every single thing in this game, now I am going to say this much about Persona 5, but every single thing in the game matters. And I know that sounds like a lot, it's not. Whether you're going to the shops, whether you're going to the movie theaters, whether you're getting video games, it all matters. Also, on a rainy day, you need to go to the bathhouse. You get more charm doing that as well. Trust me, everything in the game matters, whether it's items, confidants, eating somewhere, reading a book. It all increases confidence and social stats, and it also all helps out with your ability to fight in the palaces. Extremely important. Trust me, this game has a whole lot of shit, but believe me, once you get it down, probably about midway through the game, you will have everything down pat. You won't even need a guide anymore, only for certain situations, for certain responses with confidants. That's about it, but everything else, you'll just be on your own. You'll know what the hell to do. Look, if you've been on the fence about getting Persona 5, or if you've got Persona 5 and it's just been sitting in your back catalog forever, man, please give it an opportunity. The game says take your time. It's not joking, because the game is literally over 100 hours. I spent 165 hours on the in-game clock counter, and I loved every single minute of the game. I did not want Persona 5 to end ever, because every story development, every plot and twist in the game was fucking incredible, honest to God. And the only game I can think that can compare to this, and I know it has nothing to do with it, is whenever I first got to play through a Dark Souls game. It's just that new and revolutionary to me, even though it's not a new game at all. Even the side quests, the confidants, the social stats, all the little activities you want to know about. Or whether when you're ranking up confidants, they have an entire story that builds up over time. You want to know the end of that story for every single confidant. It's just that entertaining of a game. I mean, with Persona 5 The Royal, which is a definitive version of Persona 5, which is probably the version of the game you need to play, with an additional 30 hours and new characters and confidants, and Persona 5 Scramble possibly come out in the US. It's never been a better time to be a Persona fan, and hopefully maybe we'll get more Persona ports on the Nintendo Switch. That's what I'm hoping for, if you know what I mean. I mean, they have Scramble in Japan for Persona 5 on the Switch. Why not get Persona 5, Persona 4, and Persona 3 on the Switch? You know what I mean? That's exactly what I want, and I know you guys want it too, especially if you watch the video this far. Well, guys, this has been Booming Success. If you like what you've seen here, like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell, and maybe check out some of my other videos. Thank you so much for watching. Honestly, this is one of the best games that I've ever played. Persona 5 is freaking amazing, and if you're not playing Persona 5 and you're on the fence on it, or if you've ever played any JRPGs, or any turn-based RPGs for that matter, you definitely want to play Persona 5. Even though it's a 3-year-old game, it is a timeless game, it is a classic game, and you most certainly need to play Persona 5. Well, guys, if you can think of any tips or tricks that I missed out on this video, write them down in the comment section below for everybody else to see. And if you like this video, take a moment and like this video and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Well, I've been Booming Success, and I'm out of here.